So my name is Morna Gerard, and I am interviewing Liza, is it Strub?
Liza Strub. Yep.
For Georgia State University's Women's March Oral History Project. The date is April 23rd, 2017, and the interview is taking place in Clayton, Georgia. So, easy question to start with. Can you tell me the year that you were born and where you were born?
Yes, I was born in 1953 in Barberton, Ohio.
So when did you come to Georgia?
I guess about 25 years ago.
And what brought you to Georgia?
A job. But I went from Ohio to Delaware when I was about 2 years old. Then from Delaware to Texas, then from Texas to New Jersey, and then from New Jersey to Georgia.
Wow,
so.
You like circuitous route. So did you move to this area when you came to Georgia?
We moved to Atlanta for a job, and then a few years after living in Atlanta, we realized we needed to get out of town a lot. So we bought a little cabin up in the Suches area. And so we used to come up every weekend for 17, 18 years. And then when we were getting ready to retire, we realized we needed a bigger place than just a one-bedroom, one-bath cabin. So we looked around for what I would call a real house, and we found it in Hiawassee, Georgia. And we bought that, and then we had that for 3 years. We did the same thing, come up on weekends, and then 2 years ago, my husband and I resigned, retired from our jobs, and so we're up here full-time now. We sold our house in Atlanta, so.
Well, what were your professions?
I was a research librarian, and also I went back and went to Georgia State and got a degree in counseling. So I did that for a little bit part-time at the same time when I was a research librarian.
So 2 questions.
Yes.
Where were you a research librarian, and what kind of counseling did you do?
I worked at IBM, then AT&T, and then I worked for a management consulting firm called McKinsey & Company, and I was in the telecommunications area. So I did that, and then the counseling I did, it was really just kind of to keep myself from going crazy. After working in corporate America for a bazillion years, I did counseling, but I worked with what they call geriatric counseling. I worked at Ridgeview, which is, and I did it with the 60 and older group of people, and that's where I did counseling. I was basically a social worker counselor kind of person, but dealt with people in my age. So.
And what did your husband do?
My husband he was basically in information technology for a lot of years, and then he worked in that same vein, he worked at a company that did packaging, and he did all the testing of, how many times can you drop a 6-pack of beer without it breaking, or, how many cases can you put on top of on each other on a pallet without them all, going in on each other. So, yes, that's what he did.
Did you have kids?
No.
Okay. And where in Atlanta did you live?
We lived in the Chamblee-Dunwoody area, just barely inside the perimeter, just barely.
Growing up, were your family political?
Yes.
And describe their political activities.
Well, my father was a Republican, my mother was a Democrat. When I started remembering things, I think it was the Kennedy, Nixon election, and my father was very much torn because he became a Catholic to marry my mother, so he was actually very Catholic, more than the rest of us who were born into it. So he was very torn during that election because he would have voted for Nixon, but he wanted the idea of having Kennedy, and he liked his youngness. So, but I have to remember there was some heated things around the dinner table about that. And then my brother was a conscientious objector for the Vietnam War, and so we had a lot of political discussions around the dinner table. Yeah, so it was there. We talked about the news, we talked about politics, we talked about the war. you know, everybody had a say. Everybody had a chance to talk about it and say things about it and make their feelings known, so.
Did you have any like strong political leanings yourself?
Well, I mean, I was like on the tail end of the hippie movement. My sister was 5 years older than me. My brother's, 10 years older than me. So I was very much influenced by their politics. And so I would just say I was just an old hippie.
What about now? What party do you support?
I registered as an independent, but I mean, most of the time I'm going to go with the Democratic things, but even then they're not progressive enough for me. So I was a big Bernie. I am still a big Bernie supporter. So.
So before all of the sort of activities this past year, have you been involved in anything political in the past?
Yes, I mean, when I was in college, I went to the University of Delaware. We would come, a bunch of us that lived together would go down to Washington for the protests against the Vietnam War, the Cambodia when that went into place, ERA, women's right to choose, I don't know, a bunch of things. But it was easy to go from Delaware to DC. It was easy to get on a bus and do that, and from New Jersey too. So when I was in Texas, we were there for about 5 years. I don't think I participated in much. I was also going to school there too. I got a master's degree at University of Texas at Austin, and I didn't participate much in the political arena when we were in Texas. But
so you've been to marches before then?
Yes.
This is not your first march.
Mm-mm.
And at as we move forward, I want to talk maybe compare the marches that you sort of how they differed. So why did you want to march this year? Why? What motivated you to go be present?
Well, it was really because I was just so devastated by the election. At 20 minutes after 8 o'clock on election night, I saw that Dade County educated white women were voting for Trump in droves. So I went into the room, put in my headphones in my bedroom, and let my husband watch it. And I knew it was all over at that time. So very depressed, very upset. And probably the next day I got a call from Connie, and we, talked. And she said something like, if we put together, if we want to go march or do something, would you go on a bus? And I said yes. So I signed up the next day kind of thing. I still have a very hard time believing that people voted for this man. And so I wanted to make my presence, my resist, presence felt in some way or shape or form. And to have somebody else do all the organizing, and all I had to do was write a check and get on a bus. I mean, that was the easiest, the best thing that I could ever have done. So I didn't think twice about it.
So Connie was the person who you knew who was organising the bus out to Decatur. Can you describe the relationship with Connie, how you come to know her?
Yes, I've known each other for over 30 years. I managed her for a while when had libraries in Cincinnati. She was in the Cincinnati library, so I managed the outside libraries outside of New Jersey. So I met her there for the first time, and then when we moved to Atlanta, she was one of the few people I knew in Atlanta. She had come with AT&T to work in Atlanta. And so I looked her up, and we've been, friends again, just kind of rekindled our friendship. So since then.
And just for the record, what's her last name?
Connie Moore. It's Moore.
Is there an issue when you're thinking about going to the march? Was there any issue in the forefront of your mind that was most important for you that you were marching for?
Women's rights, women's health, women's right to choose, the climate, the environment. I don't know. I guess those are the main things that come to mind. And just about everything that he's done since. Anyways, kind of like my worst fears have come true. So.
It's like, yeah, choose one, but
One,
there's so many
but there's so
that
many,
it's like,
right,
yeah.
Right. Education, sorry.
Yeah.
Education is a big one.
So tell me which march you attended.
The March in Washington on the January 21st.
And do you think that's because Connie had
Yes.
suggested that you go to that? Would you think you'd have gone to the Atlanta one otherwise?
Yes, I don't know. I was if I hadn't known Connie, I would have probably gotten in touch with I was actually on their mailing list for the North Carolina or Georgia ones, and so I was kind of looking and seeing where they were going to go out of too, because it's 2 hours down to Atlanta, and so I was trying to find some place if there was something. But I mean, if Connie hadn't have done that, I would have gone some way, and I would have gone to Washington.
Let's talk about the process of getting you guys to Washington, D.C. Tell me about the meeting that was organized the week before the march.
It was fantastic. It was so well organized. The information was so spot on. It was timely. It was on time. It was wonderful to meet people from all over and see everybody there. To know that there was an oral history. I mean, that was one of the things that I suggested to Connie. I said, can't we get somebody from, have it be part of like an Agnes Scott school or something, have somebody do this, because I thought it was very important to capture the moment, this time in history, that I thought was very, very important. So I just loved that she and Emily just organized this. The woman who talked about the security, I mean, she brought up things that I had never even thought of, but I felt so much more comfortable after that, because I had gone on these other marches before, but I never felt nervous. I don't know why, maybe because I was just young and stupid. But this time the animosity in this country was so great that I thought something really unfortunate could happen. And so I was much relieved to hear that. And then it was like all the things to bring and whatever. It was so well planned. I felt like I was packed and ready to go. It was like easy, to know that.
Now that event was held in it was a daycare.
It's Connie's, the suburban nursery school.
Does Connie work there?
Connie and her mother. Yes, it's her mother's nursery school, and Connie's the director of it. Yeah.
It's a nice central location for
Mhm.
people to come to. So that was the week before. Tell me about the day, like, you getting to the bus, and the bus journey up to DC.
Well, Carol is a next door neighbor, and she had just recently retired. So when I told her I was going on this bus, I think she got one of the last seats on the bus. So we decided we were going to go together, but you have to drive over 2 hours, and you're going to have to get down at 5:30 in Atlanta traffic, and whatever. So our husbands were our backup team. I mean, they drove us there, they picked us up. My husband helped me, actually he made them mostly, I just put them in wrappers. He made 50 peanut butter and jelly sandwiches for the trip. He made sure, it was a team effort. So Carol's husband Gary and my husband Chuck, it was like that was our support team, and they were wonderful. So they got us there in plenty of time, and and then to see the bus and see all the women going on it, and everybody was so excited, and the signs were so great, and it was just a lot of excitement. I hadn't done something like this for 20 some years. I don't know the last time. Like I said, last time I was probably, lucky if I had, a Kleenex with me or something, and $5 in my pocket. This was like so well planned. So, anyways, yeah, we were in all good hands. So.
Can you talk about the makeup of the people on the bus? What ages? Were there men?
There was one man, I think. I think that, well, and the bus drivers. But one guy, you know, he was, I can't remember his name right now, Calvin, I'm trying to remember. Anyways, he was wonderful. I mean, that he was there with all these women. The ages were young. I mean, people were traveling with their, you know, mothers and daughters together. And I guess the biggest thing, and this is a, you know, kind of one of the things that my prejudice kind of went away. I was so happy to see so many young people, because was a bunch of old hippies like me. You know, I just talked to Patricia, you know, it's like people who had grown up in the 60s and 70s, and I figured that we were all going to come out of the woodwork, you know, for that. But to see so many young people that was just one of the things that just, and so much energy. That was just what was so great. And we had, you know, anyways, it was wonderful to see. I guess that was my biggest takeaway. I knew the old folks, old ladies like me were going to show up, but I wasn't sure about the young folks, and that was wonderful. So.
So what time did you leave that evening?
I think it was like 6 o'clock.
So you had a whole night on the bus. Can you, you know, what were you doing as you were heading up?
I was set with a woman who I'd never met before, and so we chatted for, I mean, I guess the first 2 hours or something, and then she fell asleep. I don't sleep well on buses or planes or any of that stuff, so I basically had books on my my phone, and I just put my earphones in and listened to, you know, cozy mysteries, you know, but did talk to some other people, but everybody was trying to get some shut-eye. It was a very uncomfortable bus. The toilet kind of overflowed, so there were some issues, you know, and then we got it, you know, so anyways, but I knew that at the end it was going to be interesting. Some of the best times were when we stopped and, you know, did pit stops, and you'd see all these other buses of people, and it was like, they're from North Carolina, here if they're from here, whatever. So, you know, meeting these, you know, people at 3 o'clock in the morning someplace in Virginia, it was like, oh my God, I think this is going to be a big turnout, you know. So that was fun.
Yeah.
That was fun. But yeah, I think my days of sitting on a bus for that long, like that might be my last experience. So, but I made it, you know.
Well, you know.
Yeah.
And I think you're right, though, the idea of as you're getting closer, you're seeing more and more people.
Mm-hmm.
I think that does help your
Mm-hmm.
spirits when you realise there's like this sort of community
Mm-hmm.
sort of coming together. Before the march, what was your expectation?
My expectation, I guess, was just to see. Well, I guess just having heard about the ground swelling of support and how this all had come together, I thought it would just be great to see all these people together. Now, of course, I never had any idea that it was going to be that many, and in so many different cities and towns across the United States and the world. That blew me away. I never had that as an expectation. But just to see how many, just to see like-minded people coming together in a peaceful way the day after that inauguration, and the violence that they had at that, which was, you know, silly.
Yeah.
So,
So you arrive in DC. What time do you think?
maybe like 9:30 or something in the morning.
Were you tired?
Very tired, but then there was just the adrenaline to take over, and to be happy to get a bathroom that actually you could use. So that was pretty much it. It was like there was so much food on the bus. I mean, you know, you put a bunch of women together, there's going to be a lot of food. But I wasn't really hungry, and I was just like, okay, I wanted to get going.
Can you talk about your journey from the bus to the actual rally itself?
Yes, we got into a team or a pack of people, and we were started off as 4, then it was 5, and then it was 6. So then we had 6 people, and we were really sure that we kind of stuck together and knew that. But it was kind of, you know, from the buses to through the metro station and getting off, and then the metro station was probably the scariest I felt the whole time, because people were all so packed in, and sometimes I get a little claustrophobic with that, but people were so sweet and nice, and everybody took their time. But it probably took us over an hour and a half maybe, to get from the bus actually to, where the march was going to be going. So that was a journey. But then what happened is you just saw the crowds and crowds and crowds, and then just the ground swelling and people all coming together. And so it was the adrenaline that takes over. But yeah, I wasn't too crazy about having more trains come out. The people would get off the trains, and the platform was already still crowded with people. And so that was a little like, okay, But and then people, because there was like, you had to walk up these things, and there was people with canes and whatever, but everybody was so sweet and nice and helpful, and nobody pushed, nobody shoved, it was just, it's like, I don't know, I wish I could take that feeling up and bottle it. If I'm having a bad day, I think about that. It's like, there are so many good people in the world.
I think that really affirmed that.
Mm-hmm.
So you got off the train, and you come up to the platform, and you come out onto the street, and you look around. What did you see?
Just, it seemed like millions, but hundreds and hundreds of people, just all going, and everybody was following each other. It's like, by that time I had these maps and all this stuff, and by that time it was like, just follow the crowd. And then it was just more and more and more and more people. I mean, it was just amazing. And then you're trying to see where do you go? And my group just kind of kept on meandering around all day to try to find a different places where we could sit. And we had to make a decision whether or not we were going to hear it or see it. And so we ended up making a decision where we could sit and hear it, but not see the people talking. So that's how we kind of did that.
So where were you located?
We were on the right off the main drag, but there was like a delivery ramp that went down to one of the buildings, and there was these curbs that went down. And so we sat actually on the grass and on the curbs, and the speakers were great. You could hear them, but you couldn't see. I mean, so that's what we just tried to do. And then we would try to get someplace. We kept on waiting for the march to happen. And finally, we just went off on a side street, and people started doing their own little side street march, and then we kind of participated in that. And then we wanted to make sure we got back to the bus. So then it was like, I don't know. It was, it seemed like time went really quickly.
Yes. It was very strange.
It was like the logistics of it all. Like, we knew it took us an hour and a half to get there, just about. How are we going to get, back? And so.
Did you have a plan for what you would do, like, first of all, how you're going to stay together, and what you would do if you lost one another?
Well, we had everybody had their cell phones, which was good, and then we could text each other. So we had each other's, phone numbers and things like that. We thought texting would work the best. But mostly we did like what I would call like a conga line. We just put our, I would be sometimes in the front, and then another woman, she was in the last one in the back, and we would just kind of snake our way through things and hold on to each other's shoulders. Sometimes I would sing the conga line song, do 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 do, and people would laugh and like kind of let us kind of go through and stuff like that. So, so the plan was what was going to happen, if we got apart, what we were going to do. But by that time, everybody had a map and had a kind of a good idea about how they were going to go back if we separated. But we did not separate. Even if somebody wanted to go to get a cup of coffee, we all went together. So, but I don't think none of us peed all day. Yeah, exactly. It's like we could never find a bathroom. I don't know what happened, how we, biologically, the world is an interesting place, right? So, anyways.
You talked about the speakers. Let's talk about them for a little bit. Can you tell me about the speakers that really stood out, the ones that you felt were impactful?
I guess the mayor of, was it the mayor of Washington? I enjoyed her speech. I remember Scarlett Johansson. I remember a guy from CNN talking Jones, Van Jones. Yeah, I did, you know, a little bit. It's been too long, you know. But I did get to watch some of it when I got home. My husband had like turned on all the DVRs and, you know, whatever, and taped a bunch of things so I could watch some of that. So, but it was mostly, it wasn't so much about the speakers, or not so much about the march, because we really didn't march, but it was just being with all those people and hearing people's different stories and seeing their signs and chatting to them. It's like, oh, you're from, you know, San Francisco, you're from here, you're from there. Just finding out these people were from all over the place. Everybody was so happy and so, you know, so happy and so good to each other.
Did you see any counter-protesters at all?
We did. We came upon them twice, and they were right-to-lifers, and they were getting a little raucous and angry and that kind of stuff and yelling. I didn't think, there were a couple times we saw some people trying to engage them and yell back at them, and it was like, you know, we just kind of went around them and tried not to engage them in that. It's like, you're not going to do anything with that. So that was like kind of stupid. But if I was surprised there wasn't more. That was my biggest thing. We only saw these two groups, and that was it all day. I mean, never saw anything else.
How about the police presence? Did you come into contact with any police officers?
We used we asked two different policemen, two different times about where the closest metro station was, because the one metro station we were going to go to supposedly they had closed it this was at the end of the day, and they were as sweet as can be, very helpful, whatever. I didn't see many of them. I mean, I was just so surprised that there was this whole big thing about what you could take in these backpacks and whatever, and it was like, you know, didn't matter. But anyways, yes, we saw some policemen, and they were very helpful to help us get to the right metro station. So,
let's talk a little bit about all of this preparation that we all did.
Oh.
Can you tell me what you took with you, what you wore?
Yeah, and I wore it from, you know, the time we left here at like 1:30 on Friday until we got home about, you know, 12 on Sunday. I just wore I always wear my black pants with lots of pockets in it. A comfortable pair of my plain old clogs that I wear every day. A jacket, a fleece, a long sleeve thing under that. I did have gloves. Oh, and then I know what I had. I had a vest on. I had like a travel vest underneath, and that's where I put like a rain poncho and, you know, my phone and money and, you know, blah, blah, blah. So I had like 18 pockets, and that's basically what I had. But I did have a little clear purse that I put, I'm trying to think of what was in there. Maybe like clean, I can't remember. It was stupid. I should have never even. In fact, I can't remember if I actually even took it with me, because I think the pockets worked really well, but I had gone out and got a clear purse and all this stuff. I knew I didn't want a backpack, but anyways, I just looked like I just had 14 pockets, and they were all loaded up, so anyways, and I just wore, I mean, it's like I did take a backpack, I did put it under the thing, I did have a change of like socks and underpants, or if it got, you know, wet or something, but it was like, no, I just wore the same thing for, you know, 48 plus hours, whatever.
Did you have a pussy hat?
Well, a friend of mine who I'm in a trivia team with, who is a trumper, his sister, who is not a trumper, she was knitting pussy hats for her friends in Cincinnati, Ohio. So he asked her to knit me one. So she actually sent two. So I did bring it, and I gave my other one to Carol. But I never wore it. I didn't wear it that day. I I like the idea of it, and I don't have anything wrong that anybody wore them or whatever, but I just didn't think that that was the day to make that about the pussy, you know, whatever. I mean, yes, I'm trying to, you know, protect women's pussies, but I didn't know that wearing that as a hat would be, like, I don't know, I thought it might, you know, it was a little insight, you know, I don't know, I just didn't feel like that was necessary, and so I chose not to wear one. But when I got home, I put it on and didn't take it off for 48 hours. So there's a picture of me laying in bed and with my, you know, hat on, and I don't think I took a shower and put it on, and that was like that on for 48 hours. So, and I'll have to show you a picture I made on my phone here. So, anyways, but yes, I do have it, and I cherish it. But just that day, I didn't.
And what did you think when you? But there were a lot of pussy hats everywhere.
Oh yeah, men, women, kids, you know, old farce like me. I mean, you know, yeah, everybody was around. I mean, it was amazing. It was just so great to see that, you know, sea of pink. So.
Yeah, you could never pretend that was anybody else's march.
Right. Right. Exactly.
When you looked around, by the way, did you take a sign?
No, I did not. I did not take a sign. I was trying to go minimal as best I could, because I figured, you know, if I didn't have to worry about other things, I just had to worry about my team, you know, my pack and each other, then that was going to be enough. I didn't want to do. But we had people in our group who had signs.
What were some of your favorite signs when you were looking around?
You know, it's one of those things that went in one and went out the door. I mean, I think, well, the like one of those spontaneous experiences was when I think we were standing in front of the social services building, Health, Wealth, and Social Services building, and there was like a plaza on top, and then it went down, and then there was kind of a plaza on the other side. And I remember these, you know, one big group had a sign, you know, like Free Melania, and then there was somebody on the other side with a Free Melania sign, and then everybody just was like, oh, you know, whatever. And so that they were all like, you know, happy about that, seeing each other. Let's see, what was the one? Of course, I'm never good at remembering these things. Something about IKEA has a better cabinet than Trump or something like that, and all the tweet stuff. And I told my husband, I said, I've never seen so many uteruses on signs in my life. I said, you know, everybody has interpretation of the uterus. I said, you know, it was just amazing, you know, how many uteruses I saw. Thought that was pretty good, you know. So I don't know, you know. I'm
just glad we all took pictures, so we can always sort of refer back to them, because there really were some amazing signs.
Yeah, I didn't take that many pictures. I was like just trying to hold on to everybody, but I did take a few. So, and I will send you those.
There's always has to be a couple of people in a group that are like I called myself kind of like a mother hen. It's like you have to make sure that everybody's you just have to take that role.
That's what I tried to, you know, it's like I couldn't only think about something, but you know, these other folks, we all need to be careful and be together.
Yeah. And what about the chants that did you participate in the chants?
I don't really remember that many good chants. I remember there was a couple, but not too much. No. They didn't stick out, not like in other years, other protests.
Well, I want to talk about other protests. So compare the feeling, the group, you know, thinking about looking around yourself at this march. Compare that to maybe, you know, when you were protesting for the Equal Rights Amendment or for women's reproductive rights. How is it different, or how is it the same?
This just had a lot more emotion and heightened feelings, I think. I mean, maybe, and it could be just through it's my eyes, but I remember just, you know, going down, taking a bus from New Jersey or something for, you know, women's right to choose, and I won't say it was kind of low key. I don't want to say it was matter of fact. I mean, people felt good about being there and that ever, but I don't feel like the groundswelling of just emotion and really, really strong feelings. I mean, if you get on a bus and you go to Washington for anything, you've definitely got some strong feelings, but I just don't remember it feeling, maybe it's because it's so fresh, but I just, it seemed more heightened, immediacy or something, that people really, really felt like they had to be there and do something about this and show their strength, show their support. And the other ones, I think it was, I don't know why it just seemed low key. Now that could be just because it's been 20 years. And then the Vietnam ones, you know, that was more like kind of party, you know. I won't go into the details, but yeah, much more of a party sense and much more negative, I guess, but also party-like. And I don't know, maybe that was because there was, I don't know, more men involved. I mean, you know, or there was a sense of, you know, my husband could have, at the time, you know, it was my boyfriend, you know, could have gone to Vietnam. I mean, my brother having been a conscientious objector, but it was more, I don't know why. It was just more negative kind of feelings than this one. While you felt more like you felt happy being there or whatever. And
Talking about emotions, did you get emotional or even tearful at all throughout the day?
no, I did not. And I'm a pretty much, I can cry at the drop of a hat, you know, usually. But no, I felt almost like well, yes, we should all be here. We should be, you know, almost like this is the way it should be. I was amazed. I was, you know, loved the fact that there were so many people, and then come home and then, you know, read Pantsuit Nation and see, you know, Malawi and, you know, whatever, but, you know, all the different countries that people were from. But I just felt like that it was the right thing. But not like, yeah, I didn't get, no, I cried a lot after the election, and I've cried, you know, many days when I wake up in the morning and see what kind of stupid stuff they've done. I've cried from that, but not that part, because I felt like it was like, yes, this is what we should be doing, so, yeah.
Because this was a women's march, but when you looked around the crowds, who were you seeing? Who was represented in the crowds?
Oh, everybody, men, women, children, old people, black, white, Hispanic, Asian, you know, young, old, whatever, I mean, disabled, able-bodied, you know, just everybody, people, you know, big groups of just, you know, people coming from all over the place that came. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I would say it was mostly women, but I was so pleased to see so many men there too. So that was not, yeah, but that was great.
So you said that you didn't actually join the actual main march. Can you describe where you went, what you did?
Well, we kept on kind of going up, whatever it was, Constitution Avenue, I guess, whatever it is. We just kept on snaking our way up, and to try to get, so we wanted to be at where the march was supposed to take place, at the beginning, and then it never really ever moved. So we just would stay in a place for a while, and then, you know, okay, let's go further up where we think it's going to be, because we thought it was going to go up near the White House and all that stuff. And so we kept on going further and further up Constitution Avenue. And then I think it got to be like, I don't know, 3:30 or something like that, and nothing had been moving. So we went on, we found a side march and went down that, and then we basically came and got on this metro, stopped and found a restaurant and got something to eat and use a bathroom, and found a liquor store. People got beer and wine to take on the bus for the ride back, and then we meandered our way back to where the buses were, and we were all there, but the bus wasn't there. the bus driver was trying to take a taxi to get there, so we probably waited another 40 minutes for him to show up. So, anyways, but
Can you describe how you're feeling, like, once you got back on the bus? After the bus is here, you got on the bus, like, you can sit
Yes.
down.
yes.
How were you all feeling at that point?
Yeah, I think most people were tired. You know, as you can tell, I'm not a very physically fit person, but, you know, I think I did like I had my phone, you know, I think I did like 25,000 steps that day. You know, that's the most I've walked in ever. But I wasn't really, my legs weren't tired. I was just maybe emotionally tired, and knowing that I was gonna be back on this bus, that, you know, the toilet didn't work, and, you know, it was the most uncomfortable bus I'd ever been on in my whole life, and just knowing that, okay, this too shall pass, you know, put another cozy, mystery on your, you know, on your headset there, and just try to, you know, do the best you can, text your husband, say, yes, we're 2 hours out, you know, you guys need to come and pick us up soon, whatever, so that was it. But people were actually, I was surprised how subdued people were. I think everybody was just exhausted. So there wasn't a lot of discussion after we got back. There was more after when we sat down and had something to eat, and then going back to the bus and everybody standing around the bus. But by the time we got on the bus, everybody was like ready to chill out.
Before we talk about after the march, was there anything that stood out to you as completely unexpected about the march?
No, well, I mean, just, you know, overwhelmed. I mean, just how many people were there and how peaceful it was, and how wonderfully sweet and supportive everybody was to one another. It was like everybody had taken you know, like some kind of tonic that, you know, it's like the nicest thing in the world kind of thing. And that was just, I guess that was the biggest thing that I thought of, was just how you can have all these million people, or 500,000 or whatever people around, and people can get along if they believe in something. So that was the biggest thing I think I thought of.
So your husbands came to pick you up. Were they excited? Were you excited to see each other?
Oh,
Did
my
you
gosh,
talk about?
yes.
I mean,
oh yeah, we talked on Carol and I think Gary. No, that's right. Chuck, my husband, picked us up, and we sat in the front, and Carol and Gary sat in the back, and we just, you know, talked all the way back. We were tired, but it was a good tired, and they had been watching it on TV, so they had, you know, things to tell us from what was going, because by that time we really hadn't seen all the press and didn't know about how many other things were going on, so they could kind of fill us in about that. And then, yeah, just, we blabbered for 2 hours on the way back, and he made me a great breakfast. I took a shower and slept for 3 hours with my pussy hat on and my cat, you know, sleeping next to my head, and that was, then Monday comes and all the shit hits the fan.
But your husband recorded a lot of the media. Can you talk about how you felt about the way that the marches were represented?
I thought, well, of course, with MSNBC, CNN, I guess. What else did he do? You know, just that people were surprised, I guess, how many people showed up for all these things. I think the media did a good job. They tried to do, you know, interviews with people and why they were there. I mean, I thought it was, you know, fair. I didn't watch Fox. You know, that doesn't come in our house. No, I thought they did a good job, but I think they were kind of blown away by how many people were too. So I think they were surprised about, and especially, you know, Los Angeles and New York and Chicago and, you know, Des Moines, Iowa, you know, whatever. I mean, just that ground swelling. So I think it was a big news story for, like, you know, 48 hours or something, and then, like I said, then Monday comes, and then, you know, the psychopath takes over. So
You have obviously a very supportive husband. What about the people in your community? Were you able to talk about your experiences quite comfortably, or did you have to be careful?
For some people, I didn't go right out of my way and say I'm going to this thing, but they knew about it, kind of thing. Like I said, I see this group of people for teen trivia on Tuesdays, and there's like 13 of us in the group. Half of them are Trumpers, the other half aren't. They knew that I went, but I didn't tell them about it. I mean, I didn't like sit there at trivia and say, this is what I did. There was a couple people I got together with afterwards, and somebody took me out for lunch and wanted to hear about it, and other people we got together and had some wine and talked about it. So I could talk about that. My family is very, very supportive. I have a brother and sister, and they're like, my brother marched. He lives in Delaware, so he went to the one in Newark, Delaware. My brother-in-law went to the one in Lewis, Delaware. They lived in a small town. I had friends who were in Key West on vacation. They went to the Key West one. So yeah, I mean, it wasn't everybody. I mean, I wouldn't shout at the rooftops because I live in Hiawassee, Georgia, that I was there. But my car is pretty out there. I remember when we first started. Bernie, like nobody, I think Bernie had like 1% recognition or something, and I had a Bernie sticker on my car, and one of my friends from trivia is like, when did you start calling your car Bernie? I'm like, no, I didn't call my car Bernie. No, it's a person who's running for president, and that's how little recognition people knew about what was going on.
Wow.
So, anyways, yeah, we used to laugh about my car named Bernie. So.
Well, I'm very glad for you that you did have friends and family who were supportive. When you come back, especially, that's important. Have you joined any of the indivisible groups since you got back?
No.
But you are doing things.
Yes.
Can you talk about what you've been doing since you got back?
Yeah, I mean, most of mine is just making sure that I reach out at least 3 or 4 times a week to our senators and representatives, representative and 2 senators. But then I also reach out to McConnell and Ryan, but then I've also contacted McCain when things that he's done. I mean, I want to give attaboys, not just, or attagirls, not just, being a squeaky wheel all the time. Or Graham. So mine is just more or less like keeping my face, my voice, my whatever in front of our representatives and senators and those, but it's also trickled down. I got very involved in the state with our state representative and our state senators. So when there was a whole bunch of things happening at the end of the last couple days there, I would call and make my feelings known and send letters and things like that. And I am going to go to the town hall meeting that our state representative is going to have this week. So I'm going to go there and talk about gerrymandering and whatever else he voted for. So I guess that's what I'm trying to do it that way. Money, I mean, Sierra Club, Planned Parenthood, ACLU, ACLU, Planned Parenthood, Sierra Club, whatever. I mean, just John Ossoff. I mean, I don't even live there anymore. I used to be in the 6th district, but I just, whatever I can do, that's what I'm trying to do.
Since you just talked about John Ossoff, how did you feel about this? Because we're just a few days away from the election. How were you? Talk to me how you were feeling about all of this.
I was just so happy. It was too bad that he's going to have to, by 2 percentage points, have to go through this all again. And I hope that the groundswell is still there. And I hope people don't get exhausted by this process. But you know, what a dirty campaign, you know, I mean, just horrendous. You know, what people said and did and made up stuff about them. I mean, it was just horrible, and how much money that the Republicans are throwing in at this race. But I hope he can turn it around. I mean, I'll give more money, whatever. I mean, but I thought it was great that he got 48%. I just wish it was 50.1. I know. So wouldn't have to go through this. And Karen Handel, she's like devil incarnated or something. I mean, there's so many of those these days, but you know what she tried to do with Planned Parenthood back then. And, you know, anyways, so.
So we are, this is almost the end of April, and so we're like 4 months out, 3 months out since the march. What have you been thinking about? And I know this is a touchy subject for all of us, the activities of this administration.
Every day it's just another shitstorm of, you know, horrendousness. That's all I can say. The lies, the misinformation, the keeping his friends, you know, giving them money and taking away from people who could use it. I did invite my Doug Collins, a representative here, to come and do a Meals on Wheels with me and see exactly the type of people that he was going to take the money out of their mouths for, and you know, how could he do anything about the environment? I mean, we live in one of the most beautiful places around, and then he's going to, you know, strip the EPA and think it's okay. I mean, you know, I could just go on. We could go on forever, but yeah, it's just horrendous. I just feel like democracy is being sold. I feel like the Supreme Court thing, that I really had a hard time with that.
If you don't like the rules, just change them.
Exactly. I mean, really, you know, the day the Senate died. I mean, that's what I wrote to, you know, Perdue and Isaacson. And then for him to come in his damn wheelchair and vote, I wrote to him and I said, well, that's really good that you have health care, that you could get, you know, a private plane to take you here to vote against. I said, now you're going to strip women of their health care rights. I said, but it's really good. I said, I don't think you should be getting, I said, let's take away your health care and see how you, I mean, anyways, I went nutty, but anyways.
What did you think of that photograph? Because I think all of us have seen it. All women are just like, oh, all of these men sitting in a room making decisions about women's health.
Oh, I know. It's absurd. It's just absurd. And you know, I felt like we're just going back to the 50s. I mean, I grew up in, you know, the women's movement and the civil rights movement and, you know, gay, you know, movement. I mean, you know, I just, it's like I feel like we're just going back to, like, you know, 1950, like the year I was born, 1953. This is like horrendous. I mean, it's just horrible. I just feel like every day it just gets chipped away. And where are these women? I just still don't, I mean, I really don't understand how anybody, but let alone women, could vote for this psychopath. I just don't understand it. The disconnect, it's like, you know, the synapses in my brain just go kind of, you know.
So we have until the end of next year before we have another election. So there's many months ahead of us. Let's talk about like cup half full for a minute. What would you like to see happen? What would you hope to see happen between now and then?
Well, I would hope that we'll be able to see a turnaround in more people running, and more Democrats getting in, like the John Ossoff. That would be a fantastic, you know, groundswell starting to go that way. I don't really know. I mean, do I think it's be good if he got impeached? Because I don't think Pence is anything. I mean, Pence might even be more scary. So I'm really torn between that. I'm kind of hoping like the Nixon thing, where it's like Nixon and Agnew both went at the same time for, you know, corruption and, you know, dirty dealings and whatever. So it'd be great if both of those guys could go at the same time. I mean, I know that's wishful thinking, but I mean, I'm hoping that something comes out of this investigation with Russia and all the underhandedness that's been going on. I mean, there's not much I can do. That's why I keep on writing to my every day and say, you're still letting this going on. You're gonna have to take this man out, whatever. You're gonna have to clean up his what he's done. I mean, how can you do this? How can you let him be your president and allow him to keep on doing these things? So I'm hoping that this groundswell will come, and I hope people just don't get, emotionally, just exhausted from all this. It's tiring.
Well, let's talk about this because it is very tiring.
Mm-hmm.
What do you recommend we all do to keep our energy up and to not get burned out with all of this?
I don't know, just support each other, talk about the issues, organize in some kind of way, do things like this, meet like-minded people and come up. I got Patricia, they've reinvigorated the League of Women Voters here in Raven County, and the one in Towns County is gone. So that gave me a good idea about maybe that's something to do. Encouraging people to run. That's not going to be me, but I would, support the next candidate that could come up. Our state representative and our state senator ran unopposed in Towns County. There's just no Democrats or whoever, they just ran unopposed. So we need to get people in there to speak for me, speak for people like me. Well, anyways.
And I hate to sort of be Debbie Downer, but if you talk about cup half full.
Mm-hmm.
What are your greatest fears for the next, say, year and a half?
Well, I think the biggest thing there's so many. Well, I guess the biggest thing is taking away, women's right to choose. I think that's going to be if that happened in my lifetime, I don't even know what I would do. That's just insane to me. The other thing is about the EPA and the climate. What's going to happen to our environment? That just makes me crazy. So that whole thing. We're chipping out of everything, and then just why can't the United States have a health care for everybody? I don't understand it. And I know that the Affordable Care Act is not the be all and end all, but dear Lord, please, somebody come up with, let's get something. Why are you so gleeful when you take away people's health care? Why are you so gleeful when you take away women, for maternity, for paying for babies or mammograms, or why does that make you so damn happy? How, again, the synapses just don't go. So it's like health care, the environment, women's rights to choose. I don't know. Those are probably my biggest things. And the I don't have children, but I have great nieces, and I don't want to see the education system dismantled. Again, it's not perfect, but anyways, and then immigration. I can go on. Respect for human beings.
In all of this, do you see any silver linings?
Well, it's good to see people who, like myself, who were pretty complacent, who thought it was all done back in the 60s and 70s and, 80s, and yes, we're, allowing everybody to get married. That was a big, thing. It's like, yes, we were still making those things. It takes a long damn time, but, I thought we're getting better. It's going to get better. And then we had Affordable Care Act, and it's like, yes, these things are going on. And then all of a sudden, we're back to like ground zero again. So I forget what your question was now.
Silver
Sorry.
lining.
Silver lining. I guess just the idea that people are active more, are vocal, and we just can't allow this to happen again. I mean, I hope we're still around to be able to have a choice, or they're not going to take away my rights because I have a vagina. I mean, that I can't vote. I mean, I don't know. Makes me nuts.
If anyone was planning to go to another march in the future, what would your piece of advice be to them?
Do it. Get a good night's sleep. Take as little as possible. But just do it. Do it. Like I said, I don't know if my days might be numbered about getting on a bus overnight and going to DC and back in 48 hours or something. But yes, you should do it. You should march.
If let's just say they did try and take away our right to choose, would you go back up to DC
Oh.
to fight that?
Yeah.
How would you get there next time?
Fly. Fly. Yeah, I would fly. Yeah. Or drive in a car with a couple other people and, whatever. So, I mean, the bus was fun, but my bus days are over with. I'm too big, I'm too old. My bones don't work as well as they used to, so my bladder is like sketchy, so, I'd like to be in control of some of that.
Oh, well done for.
I went on my women's right to choose for, bathroom breaks and,
Is there anything I haven't asked you that any last thoughts that you have?
No, just, it's a great experience, and thank you very much for talking me into doing this. I really appreciate it.
I'm really glad that you did too. You've got a lot to say. Very wise thoughts, I think.
I don't know about that, but
So-
yeah.
So thank you
Anyways,
very much.
Good to let off some steam.
Yeah.
Thank you.